pleasure to welcome Dr. Sakai back to National Jolt. He's been, I'm a little reluctant to give the introduction because if I tell about all his accomplishments, it'll take the full 19 minutes. So I'm simply going to give you the very short version. Dr. Sakai, as you know, is a native of Nagano Prefecture, and he's currently a professor at Shinshu University, the Faculty of Education. His research interests include second language interactional studies, classroom second language acquisition, and psycholinguistic aspects of listening and speaking. So Dr. Sakai graduated from Shinshu University with an undergraduate and a graduate, and then completed his doctorate with Temple University. This next part is just amazing. He has written over 30 articles for books and published one book. In addition, he has 61 research papers in refereed national and international journals, as well as 28 non-refereed papers, which is just simply amazing. In terms of his career, he's taught both at the junior high school level before turning to the university level, starting at the Joetsu University of Education in Niigata Prefecture, and then returning to Shinshu University. And as I mentioned, he's currently a professor there. So he's not only probably the most qualified person in Nagano to give this talk, it's probably nationwide. He is a leading authority. He's been involved with 2 working groups with the Central Council of Education concerning foreign language education and language ability development. So these reports form the basis of the revised course of study, which is the national guidelines issued by NEXT. He's also was a member of the commentaries to the course of study. Again, another publication which informed, again, the course of study. And there's another one, a member of a group, References for Educational Assessment to Aligning Teaching with Assessment for junior high schools. I've had the pleasure of knowing Dr. Sakai for over 20 years, I believe. And what I really respect about his work is with such organizations as CELUS, which is the Chubu Chiku Ego Kyoku Gakkai, he was very active in giving workshops on how to conduct research. So making sure all of us are conducting research in a rigorous and systematic way. But I've also seen him as a teacher trainer, and his lectures are always very practical, thinking of the needs of teachers and making the theory and the research accessible to people on the front line, as it were. So ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Dr. Sakai back to Nagano Jolt, and I know we are in for a wonderful session. So Dr. Sakai, please.
Thank you very much, great Sensei. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm very happy to be here and to have this good opportunity to talk to you. Thank you very much. And I put the link of my presentation in the chat so you can download my presentation, okay? And first of all, I'm sorry about my slides because my slides are not so good to readers. They are full of letters, and I'm not good at making very wonderful and attractive slides using illustrations. So first of all, I should say I'm sorry about this. Okay, well. Can you see my slides well? Okay, thank you very much. Okay, again, and first of all, I'd like to thank you for attending this meeting and thank Nagano Jolt for giving me a good opportunity to share the information about the changing shift toward more communicative orientation of foreign language education in Japan, in particular at elementary and junior high school levels. The revised courses of studies, the curricula issued by the MEXT were implemented at elementary schools in 2020 and at junior high schools in 2021. I'm going to talk about what changed and what did not change in the 3 points: teaching and assessment, the textbooks used, and instructional procedures and their rationales. Then I'd like to summarize these changes and share suggestions for teaching and assessment for elementary and junior high school teachers. Well, let's start with the first topic. What are the changes in teaching and assessment? At first, I'm going to talk about the courses of studies so that you can grasp the aims of foreign language education and the way to achieve the goals. The courses of studies, which is called 学習指導要領 in Japanese, are the guidelines for curricula issued by the MEXT. The courses of studies were revised in 2017 for elementary and junior high schools and in 2018 for senior high schools. They were put into action 2 years ago for elementary schools and last year for junior high schools, and they were enacted this year for senior high schools. With regard to foreign language education, there are several changes accordingly. First, foreign language activities called 外国語活動 start earlier in grade 3. Until 2019, foreign language activities started in grade 5. So the starting age of foreign language learning was lowered. The third and fourth graders study English in 35 credit hours for each grade. In other words, 1 period per week. 1 period at elementary school levels takes 45 minutes. Foreign languages called 外国語 are conducted as a subject in grades 5 and 6. Each grade has 70 credit hours, in other words, 2 periods a week. Subjects usually more than 1 period per week. By the law, textbooks used for subject must be approved by the Ministry of Education, and the authorized textbooks edited by publishing companies must be used for foreign languages in elementary school. English must be taught as a foreign language for foreign languages. Some people may think that other languages than English can be taught, but this is wrong. Basically, we should teach English. In junior high school, English lessons should be taught through English so that the opportunities for exposure to English and the use it for communicative purposes will be increased. This aims at improving students' communicative abilities. But this does not mean all the lessons should be taught in English all the time. Maybe 50% or more than 50% of the lesson is expected to be taught in English. Lastly, in senior high school, the subject names are changed with more emphasis on the development of expressive abilities and logical thinking skills in English. So here are names of the lessons for senior high schools: English Communication 1, 2, 3, and Logic and Expression 1, 2, 3. Basically, senior high school students must take of these 6 subjects. Until this year, the subject names of communicative English and English, the subject names of communication English and English expression are used. For English expression, it was intended that the students' expressive ability, such as speaking and writing, should be taught. But in actuality, the textbooks mainly dealing with the grammatical rules sold well. So the intention and the reality were different. So to avoid the ambiguity, the name is changed into logic and expression. More emphasis on the development of expressive abilities in English were made. In principle, the courses of studies are revised about every 10 years. Once they are revised, the curricula will be changed. The textbooks will be newly edited, and the teacher qualifications will be modified. So it can be said that the revision brings a big change in class and at school. The courses of studies specify aims and achievement goals of each subject or study area, contents to be covered, and points to design curricula and lessons at school. They have legal effects, thus teachers are to follow them. Thus, Japanese teachers are required to understand the new courses of studies and trying to teach English to meet the courses of studies. So maybe for good lessons, Japanese teachers and ALTs or the other people relating to English language teaching should look in the same direction and by understanding the courses of studies. What is unique for the recently revised courses of studies is that they focus not only on what to be taught, but also how it should be taught. In other words, learning processes are specified. Let's take the first part of the aim of foreign languages for junior high school as an example. Look at the Japanese part. 外国語によるコミュニケーションにおける見方、考え方を働かせ、外国語による聞くこと、読むこと、話すこと、書くことの言語活動を通して、簡単な情報や考えなどを理解したり、表現したり、伝え合ったりするコミュニケーションを図る資質能力を次の通り、育成することを目指す。The red part through language use activities, 言語活動 such as listening, reading, speaking, and writing in foreign languages. This is a unique part. The red part clearly specifies how communicative competence in English should be developed. That is, it is through language use activities that teachers instruct and develop students' communicative competence. Although the levels of attainment are different, similar expressions are used in the aims for elementary school and senior high school. What is important here is, first, we target at developing communicative competence, not grammatical knowledge only. And we teach our subjects by mainly using language use activities, not by explaining the grammatical rules, making students memorize English phrases and sentences, or making students repeat after teachers or materials mechanically. In my view, the revised courses of English have incorporated the implications of recent second language acquisition research, such as the interaction theories like the input hypothesis, the output hypothesis, the interaction hypothesis, and the noticing hypothesis, and TESOL methodology such as task-based language instruction or communicative language teaching. Then it is necessary to understand what a language activity is. The courses of studies for junior high school gives the following explanation about language use activities. The quotation says, when a language use activity, for example, one in which people actually use English to convey ideas and feelings to each other is given, instruction in which students understand formal grammatical aspects of language materials, words, phrases, structures, and practice them can be given when necessary. The courses of studies for senior high school give a similar explanation. One difference between junior high school and senior high school is that the definition of a language use activity for senior high school contains the exchange of information or facts as well as one's thoughts and feelings. From this quotation, we can understand that language use activities are distinguished from instruction for understanding the practice of grammatical rules. And I consider language use activities as communication activities in which people exchange messages with each other. Some may think that communication activities involve two-way interactions, but they don't have to. Very simply, communication is defined as an exchange of a message between a sender of the message and its receiver. In listening, someone encodes his or her messages in a language, another decodes the language to understand the message. So in the listening process, communication takes place like this. So listening to news and reading a mail can be communication activities, although they may not involve two-way interactions, because both contain exchange of messages between the message sender, news teller or writer, mail writer, and the receiver, listener or reader. Therefore, it can be restated that the aim of foreign languages in the courses of studies is to develop communicative competence in a foreign language by communicating in the language. So far, I explained the definition of the language use activities, and most of you may understand that the use of language use activities is really important for second language learning. But in Japan, most teachers of English prefer to use more mechanical or formal grammatical practices to communicative activities. So this specification is really significant. This specification may have some very important message to Japanese teachers of English. So the teachers need to change their belief about language learning because of these courses of studies. Okay, and in addition, language use activities need to have clear communicative purposes, situations, or conditions. コミュニケーションを行う目的や場面、状況等。This is because the courses of these studies characterize language use activities as where learners can develop the abilities of thinking, judging, and expressing their ideas, 思考力、判断力、表現力等 while utilizing basic knowledge of English, pronunciation, words, phrases, structures, grammar, usage, and skills of using such knowledges for communicative purposes. In language use activities, on the one hand, students utilize the knowledge and skills of the English language, and at the same time, on the other hand, students utilize the ability of thinking, judging, or decision-making and expressing one's thought. So I want to explain the role of communicative purposes, situations, or conditions for language use. An example activity here is read the newspaper article to think about the issue. I set 3 different communicative purposes for this activity. How will the communicative purposes influence the reading processes? With the first purpose, the first purpose in order to contribute to the newspaper about the article. With this purpose, maybe we will try to find the writer's main argument so that we can discuss the issue. This way of reading is called read to understand the main point. Learners need to comprehend what is said in the newspaper article in the beginning. At this stage, their knowledge and skills of English are utilized. Then they need to judge which information is more important than others. For this judgment, the ability of thinking and judgment works. With the second purpose, in order to report what the writer writes, maybe we will try to grasp the overall storyline of the article so that we can report it in a shorter form. This way of reading is called read to understand the gist of the story, or skimming. Again, after learners retrieve information from the article with their knowledge and skills, they are required to relate pieces of information and to understand organization or structure of information or paragraphs. The latter process requires the use of the ability of thinking and judgment. Thus, learners can reorganize the article into a shorter summary. With the third purpose, in order to find the answer to such a question, where did that happen? Maybe we will try to look for the place name in the article. This way of reading is called read to get the necessary information, or scanning. While understanding the information by use of knowledge and skills, learners need to judge whether pieces of information are necessary for them or not. What I wanted to show here through these examples is that even if the reading passage is the same, and if the communicative purposes are different, learners need to read in different ways according to the communicative purposes. In other words, they not only understand what is written, but also evaluate which part is more important, think about how parts are related to each other, and judge it whether each information is what they wanted to know or not. Learners need to develop their abilities of thinking and judging according to communicative purposes. Because this is a reading activity, the purposes may not activate the ability of expressing themselves, which is related to speaking or writing activities. Not only communicative activities, but also situations, for example, at the airport, in a classroom, at the job interview, or condition, for example, the relationship between the person to whom you are talking, the availability of such tools as pens, papers, or PCs are important factors in how we think. I think that this reflects on theories of communicative competence. Since 1990, the concepts of grammatical competence, discourse competence, and sociolinguistic competence were incorporated into the courses of studies at the time. But discourse competence and sociolinguistic competence tended to be overlooked in the classroom. Considering that the communicative purposes, situations, and conditions are important for language use, suggests that teachers need to develop their students' communicative competence in the real sense. So I myself think that if students develop real communicative competence, they need to be able to activate this type of cognitive abilities. Okay, and the revised courses of studies do not state that grammar instruction and practice are helpless or unnecessary. They state that teachers need to consider the proper timing of grammatical instruction and practice. When they judge that their students lack some linguistic knowledge and or need to practice listening to, reading, speaking, writing words and phrases, they can provide instruction. So the process of developing students' communicative competence through language use activities can be depicted like this figure. So first, students perform a language use activity, and when necessary, they learn the words and phrases and grammatical rules. Then they perform another similar language use activity. Through this spiral process, students gradually learn to use the language for communicative purposes. Okay, getting back to the aim of foreign language in the courses of studies, teachers are required to teach communicative competence consisting of 3 components. And the first component is related to knowledge and skills. As to knowledge, students need to understand the knowledge of the sounds, vocabulary, expressions, grammar, and functions. As to skills, students need to acquire skills of using such knowledge for communication. The second component concerns the abilities of thinking, judgment, and expressing ideas. For foreign languages, students need to use the language knowledge and skills appropriately according to the communicative purposes, situations, and conditions. I think that this component is a newly created view of communicative competence. Thus, many teachers have difficulty in teaching this aspect of communicative competence. But as I told you before, in the example of newspaper activity, this component must be developed for learners to possess real and functional communicative competence. The third component is the attitudes toward learning. Look at number 3, which states that students should have developed an attitude of attempting to proactively, 主体的に. This 3-componential view of competence is one of the big changes in the revised courses of studies. In particular, as I said, junior high school teachers have put exclusive emphasis on teaching the first component, knowledge and skills, while elementary school teachers tended to try to make students possess positive attitudes toward communication, the third component. Both of them need to widen their view of communicative competence to be developed more than before. Furthermore, teachers are required to assess students' progress in terms of these 3 points of view. With the next slide, I'd like to talk about assessment. So assessment or evaluation may be 通知表, school grading report, and testing, periodical examinations, and 指導要録, cumulative guidance records are used. But basically, by law, cumulative guidance records, 指導要録, called 指導要録, are obligatory, and testing and school grading report are optional. The cumulative guidance record, called 指導要録, is an official and obligatory document which must be made at the end of the academic year for individual students. the cumulative guidance record must be kept at school for 5 years. Assessment for the cumulative guidance record consists of 2 types of grading. The first one is evaluation according to 3 points of evaluation: knowledge and skills, the abilities of thinking, judgment, and expression of ideas, and attitudes toward learning. 観点別の学習評価 on the reference of achievement goals for each year, which is called the each year's achievement goals in the form of a can-do list. can-do リスト形式の学年ごとの学習到達目標に基づく観点別の評価という言い方をします。This evaluation uses a 3-point scale for elementary school and junior high school, and as well as senior high school. A, B, C. A, B, C. A means fully satisfied achievement. B means enoughly satisfied achievement. And C means not satisfied. So most students are expected to get A or B. A or B. In addition, a 5-point scale grade, 5 for fully satisfied to 1 for not satisfied, is provided to summarize the 3-point assessment. So for example, if the student received A for 3 in terms of the 3 evaluation points, the student is assigned as 5 fully satisfied as a summarized grade. Testing and school grading reports to show are optional and depend on the school's decision. So there are several schools in Japan which do not administer examinations, or they do not make school grading reports every term. Okay. Teachers are required to evaluate students' performance in terms of 3 points: knowledge and skills, the abilities of thinking, judgment, and expression of ideas, and attitude toward learning. Probably it is easy to evaluate language aspects of performance. So here I want to focus on the abilities of thinking, judgment, and expression of ideas. First, I want to emphasize that what was taught should be evaluated. So basically, the evaluation should depend on what the teacher taught. If the aim of a unit or lesson is, according to the cumulative communicative purpose, learners can think of what to say, choose which, and express it, and the teacher has to teach learner to how to listen to questions and understand what he or she wants to know, and think about what to say and how to answer. Okay. After teaching, the teacher can evaluate students' performance by observing or recording the pair activity, for example. And accordingly, according to what was taught, the criterion here can be, if the learner can answer questions, his or her performance can be considered to show sufficiently satisfied achievement or enoughly satisfied achievement. Thus, B is assigned. If the learner cannot answer questions, maybe students are not able to understand the questions, and maybe they will not be able to think about what to say, or maybe they will not be able to think about how to say it. So C is assigned, not satisfied. I think this requirement is not so hard. So I would set a 2-point scale criterion. Okay, so can answer questions, B. Cannot answer questions, C. So I will play the recording of a pair. I want you to listen to the pair talk. And first, the boy asks 2 questions. The boy was given 2 questions and told to ask those questions to the partner, to his partner. What is your favorite season? And do you like dogs? So please listen to the girl's response and try to assess her performance according to this criterion. Okay.
What is your favorite sports?
My favorite sport is ski.
Ski. Oh,
Because
Hi.
ski is very interesting.
Hi.
I like winter.
Oh, winter.
I like winter sports.
Oh.
But I like summer sports a little.
Hi.
I like sports, but I can sports a little. Sports very happy.
やめてください。A さんだけスクリーンを見てください。B さんはスクリーンを見ないでください。それでは次の英語の質問を読む時間を10秒間取ります。
How would you assess her performance? Basically, she successfully answered the question, so her grade should be B, right? Do you agree? Do you agree? It's very simple. If you have a very clear criterion, maybe the assessment will be easier. Okay, then please listen to the boys' answer. So they switched the roles. And this time the girl asked 2 questions. Can you play the piano? And what time do you get up in the morning? Okay, so with this criterion, please listen to the boys' part.
読んでください。45秒間、英語で質問し合いながら会話を続けてください。
Do you like dogs?
It's very much.
Yes. 停止ボタンを押してください。英語で質問し合いながら会話を続けてください。
Can you play the piano well?
Yeah, no, I don't.
No, I don't.
No. Yeah, I play drum.
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 You like music?
Yes, I.
Do you play the piano?
Yeah, no, I don't.
You play the drum.
Yes.
Can you play the drum well?
Yes, I. Yes.
I like music, but I don't like play the drum. But I can play the piano. Yes.
What's piano の曲 do you play?
やめてください。兄さんだけスクリーンを見てください。
Okay, his grammar was not good, but he understood the question, the first question, and was able to think of what to say. And even if he answered, yes, I do, no, I don't, to the question, can you play the piano? But he could utilize his ability of thinking and judgment. So I would assign B to his performance on this criterion. But of course, the different evaluation is possible if you look at his performance in different view, such as skills and knowledge and skills. Okay, and so if I observed, okay. So of course, evaluation criteria change according to what is taught. For example, if the achievement goal of a unit or lesson is in a situation where learners need to continue to talk, learners can ask related questions and make responses and comments in response to the conversational partner's utterances. And the teacher taught how to ask related questions and make responses and comments properly in response to the partner's utterance. Then the criterion can be A, if the learner can ask related questions and make responses and comments properly several times. And B, if the learner can ask related questions and make responses and comments properly. And C, if the learner cannot ask related questions or make responses and comments in response to the partner's utterance. So how would you evaluate the two students' performance in the pair talk? I would give A to the girl because she asked related questions to the boy, or sometimes she talked about herself and making comments. And C to the boy because the boy did not ask related questions and just responded by saying yes, 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 or no, 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 no. Okay, so like this, the same performance can be evaluated differently with different criteria. And also criteria can be different according to what is taught. Okay, so what is important here is the teacher should be aware of what to teach in terms of the abilities of thinking, judgment, and expression of ideas, and evaluate his or her students' performance according to what has been instructed. So this slide shows a transcription of the talk. Okay, now let's move on to the next topic. What are the changes in the textbooks? So far, the teaching materials called Hi Friends, created and circulated by MEXT were used for foreign language activities. In other words, all the elementary school teachers used the same books, so they were able to share their experience or knowledge easily with each other. But now, 6 publishing companies publish textbooks for grades 5 and 6. For elementary schools and junior high schools, textbooks are chosen according to areas, not individual schools. In Nagano Prefecture, there are 12 areas. 7 out of the 12 areas use New Horizon Elementary. 3 use Here We Go. 1 uses Crown Junior, and 1 uses Blue Sky. Thus, different textbooks are used in different areas. This is another change. For foreign activities for grades 3 and 4, authorized textbooks are not published because foreign language activities for grades 3 and 4 are not subject. MEXT edits books called Let's Try 1 and 2 for foreign language activities. By law, textbooks for subjects must be used. On the other hand, Let's Try is not a textbook for subjects, so it depends on it depends on schools if they use let's try or not. So it is possible that the school creates their own curricula and own textbooks or materials and teach according to such originally created materials. But for grades 5 and 6, teachers and the school must use the textbooks. Recently, the GIGA School project, Global and Innovation Gateway for All School project, has been promoted so that every elementary and junior high school student is provided with a tablet PC. This year, the project has been accelerated through the distribution of learner digital textbooks for English at elementary and junior high schools. So I think that it needs to explore, we need to explore how to use learner digital textbooks with learner PCs effectively for English language learning. This is a very unexplored area. So nobody is not sure, and nobody is sure that nobody is sure about how we teach English using learner digital English textbooks. Okay, last question is, what are the changes in commonly used instructional procedures and their rationales? The aims in the courses of studies have changed. So far, the aim of foreign language activities for grades 5 and 6 was developing the foundations of communicative skills. Thus, learners did not have to learn words and phrases in heart, but they only had to become accustomed to using English. 英語に慣れ親しむことが目標になってました。So teachers were told not to expect that their learners learned words and phrases, but teach words and phrases needed for the lesson in the lesson. Of course, without any assistance, learners could not use English in communication activities, so teachers gave practice activities from very mechanical ones, such as chants and songs, to more enjoyable ones, such as games like missing game or keyword game. Then teachers gave seemingly communicative activities in which students followed a model dialogue and used very limited words and phrases. In other words, the procedure follows PPP presentation, practice, and production. Now, according to the revised courses of studies, the aim of foreign languages for grades 5 and 6 states that learners acquire skills of using linguistic knowledge for real communication. In other words, learners are required to be able to use English by themselves without any help or any assistance. In order to be able to use words and phrases by themselves, it is important to have opportunities to use words and phrases by themselves. Thus, the frequently used procedures have changed from the PPP procedure to do, learn, do again procedure. The latter procedures are based on the educational philosophy of learn by doing. I think do, learn, do again procedure is also in agreement with the learning philosophy of communicative language teaching. That is, not to learn to communicate, not learn to communicate, but communicate to learn. Further, it fits the interactionist second language acquisition theories that consider that it is necessary for learners to receive comprehensible input and negative feedback to be pushed for more comprehensible output and to notice the form meaning connections during the interaction. Let's take an example of small talk to show this procedure. Small talk. By definition, small talk is a relatively formal talk, for example, occurring at the beginning of business or other formal settings, but small talk is used in a different sense in foreign language education at elementary school, basically elementary school. Small talk here is a speaking activity aiming at the development of the ability of spoken interaction. MEXT has pushed these activities in order to provide students with more interaction opportunities. According to the guidebook for elementary school English language teaching issued by MEXT, the activities can provide opportunities to use repeatedly the words and expressions that students learned. Opportunities for students for continue communicating somehow. Opportunities for students to pick up new words and expressions. For junior high school and senior high school, the activities can lead to more advanced activities such as interview activities, discussions, and debating. In a typical teaching procedure, the teacher talks about himself or herself first on some topic. The teacher can interact with LT or students by asking questions, reacting, and making comments. So in this interactive teacher talk, students can realize what topic they are going to talk about and how the conversation is continued. In the first small talk, that is pair talk, students talk in pairs. The teacher, the LT can observe their performance to assess what students can express in English and what they cannot. Or the teacher and the LT can interact with the students in pairs and can help students by rephrasing students' wrong or incomplete utterances in more appropriate forms, which is a feedback called recasts. After that, the class can have sharing time. For the instructional purposes, the teacher can ask students about what they wanted to say, but they could not say in English, and ask other students about the expression. Or the teacher can ask one or two pairs to demonstrate their interaction in front so that other students can get the hint of words and phrases and expressions and the techniques to keep conversation. For the communicative purposes, the teacher and the LT can introduce what they heard in the first small talk. If they rephrase what they heard in more correct English, students will be able to pick up for the second pair activity. Or the teacher and the LT can interact with one or two students in a whole class. Thus, they can show a variety of questions and responses to the students. During the sharing time, the teacher and the LT should help students resolve their linguistic problems found in the first pair activity. In the second pair talk, students talk with different partners. The teacher and the LT should observe the improvement of individual students from the first activity to second. So this procedure follows do, learn, do again. Do means interactive in the interactive teacher talk, and in the first small talk, students are involved in listening activity and speaking activity. And sharing time plays a role of learning learning time. And then students are provided with another chance to speak with different partners. So this procedure is similar to the principle of communicate to learn in the communicative language teaching approaches. In terms of the interactionist second language acquisition theories, in the first interactive teacher talk, students can receive more comprehensible input. For this, teachers should be careful to facilitate students' understanding of messages by using pictures or gestures, or by paraphrasing into simpler words and phrases. In the first pair talk, students will be able to have chances to negotiate for meaning. So it is important to teach students how to ask questions if there is something difficult for them to understand. The teachers also help students solve the communicative problems. During the first pair talk, some students may notice what they wanted to say, but they could not say. According to the output hypothesis, such noticing promotes students' motivation to hear English to learn necessary forms. So during the sharing time, the teachers can teach how to say it for the students with such noticing. The second pair time provides students repeat. The second pair time provides students with a chance to repeat similar activities so that they can automatize their skills of language while communicating with others. The repetition of similar activities will be helpful to make students more confident and feel a sense of achievement. Okay, and so I want to show our lesson using Smalltalk. This is from YouTube. Just wait. Can you see the site of YouTube? Okay.
So you think today is cold? It's cold? Cold? Who think cold? Oh, it's also, yeah. But it's winter, right? It's winter. How about in Australia?
In Australia, now is summer.
Summer. It's winter, okay? So we have 4 seasons: spring, summer, autumn, winter. Yeah, now is the winter. So winter vacation. Jake Sensei,
Yes.
tell me about your winter vacation.
My winter vacation. I went to Udo Shrine with my mother.
Oh, Udo Shrine with your mother.
With my mother. My mother came to Miyazaki from Australia.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
How was it?
How was it? It was lucky.
Lucky? Why?
I enjoyed throwing lucky stones.
So this is the first step called interactive teacher talk. So through this interaction, students can get more comprehensible input and also realize what topic they are going to talk about.
Do you know lucky stones? Yes. I made it 3 times.
Yeah, show the lucky stone.
3 times.
This is the lucky stone.
3 times. We also ate thin slice of pork in hot water and sauce. Do you know what this is? Yes?
What's this?
Shabu shabu.
Shabu shabu.
We ate shabu shabu. It was very delicious. Very delicious.
You ate a lot. Shabu shabu.
Lots of shabu shabu.
I think these teachers are really good at using gestures or pictures and asking questions with the students so that students can be involved in the interaction and their comprehension is promoted.
Enjoy Lucky Stone. He was very lucky. He made 3 times. Okay, so 1, 2, 3 times. Many people, yeah. So, do you remember your winter vacation? Let's go.
Your grandma. Cool.
Yeah, I enjoy. お餅つきなんて言われるよね。それジェイク先生後で聞こうや。お餅 English please. Okay? Okay.
Okay, so this is the time for the first pair talk, small talk. And one goal, this goal wanted to say omochitsuki, making rice cake, but she did not how to say it in English. So the teacher told the student to ask Jake Sensei after this small talk. That means during the sharing time, Jake Sensei will teach how to say it in English to this girl student.
Irojingu. Yeah.
Fortune.
Oh, fortune. Oh, yeah. Omikuji. Oh. You got your fortune.
Yes.
Whoa, nice. Good, lucky.
Lucky.
Lucky. Oh, that's nice.
Okay, stop.
Oh, sorry.
いいね。いっぱい苦労してるね。頑張ってるね。Okay. じゃあ質問がある人どうぞ。Okay. 質問だそうです。
いとこ in English please.
Itoko? I don't know.
さあ英語で言うから待ってね。ちょっとトライするから聞くの。
My mother, sister, children.
Your mother, sister, children. Ah, your cousins. Cousins.
そらさんそれ使って何て言ったの？カズンズ。いとことどうしたの？
遊んだ。
いとこと遊んだどうやろう？ I play ほら修学旅行の時にお話を友達と楽しんだって何て言った？ Chatting with my friend 一緒やん。じゃあこの場合は I play 友達との時は何だったの？ with my friend いとことだって。with my cousin じゃあもう一回文で言うよ。I want to I play with my cousins. Okay? Good. 拍手。よく頑張ったね。ひめるさんも同じ質問があったの。ひめるさんなんて質問したかったんだっけ？
妹と遊んだ。
妹と遊んだ。一緒に言うよ。Okay? はい、言ってみよう。せーの。I play with my sister. Okay?
Oh, okay,
Okay,
nice.
that's good, good. Okay. I played with my sister. I played with my cousin. Okay. I went to?
I went to play soccer game.
で、ここで話が止まっちゃったので、りくさんなんか考えたとよね。どうぞ。
Do you like soccer? Yes, I do.
So this teacher used several strategies for the learning time, sharing time. The first one is asking students whether they have difficulty in English, and the teacher asked other students to think about the expression, and then the students with the difficulty, the problems, learn how to say it in English. And this time, they have some difficulty in keep talking, continue talking. So he asked the question, and so the teacher introduced his performance to other students, and so that other students will learn, other students can learn how to keep talking, that is by asking questions. And then after this,
次ちょっとペアを変えて、もうちょっとさっきよりも話がね続くように質問したり、今の工夫を使いながらもう一回 Your winter vacation. Okay? Let's try. こっちも。I
made soba.
okay, so this is the do again session. So like this, language use activities are repeatedly used with the learning session. So this is the typical do again procedure. And this procedure has started at elementary schools, but now junior high school teachers started to use this procedure for their instruction as well. Okay. Okay. So in my talk, I focused on 3 questions. What are the changes in the guidelines for teaching and assessment in the textbooks, and the commonly used instructional procedures and their rationales? The courses of studies mentioned about not only what to teach, but how to teach. For foreign language education, teachers need to develop students' communicative competence through the use of language use activities, that is, communicative activities. And the view of what communicative competence is has been changed. So teachers should be aware of the 3 componential view of communicative competence, in particular to teach the ability of thinking, judgment, and expression of ideas. Teachers need to set clear communicative purposes, situations, and conditions for language use activities. By doing so, students will be able to develop real communicative competence, including discourse competence and socio-linguistic competence. And this is similar to the second point, but the evaluation of students' performance should be done in terms of 3 viewpoints: knowledge and skills, the abilities of thinking, judgment, and expression of ideas. So far, the teachers are very concerned about how learners use the language, that is, knowledge and skills have been considered significant. But the teachers have to change their views of students' performance toward more wider communicative competence. And the second, what are the changes in the textbooks? I taught grades 5 and 6 started to use authorized textbooks. Different areas use different textbooks. So the teachers need to understand their own textbooks and also other types of textbooks as well. In addition, digital textbooks for learners have started to be used at elementary and senior high schools. So I think it is very necessary to research on how to use learner digital textbooks. for effective teaching. The last question, what are the changes in commonly used instructional procedures and their rationales? Because the aims have changed, the procedures to be used have been changed from the PPP procedure to the do, learn, do again procedure. To me, this shift is good because it is more in agreement with the theories of SLA and studies of TESOL methodology. That's all for my talk. Thank you very much for listening. And I think we have 15 minutes left. So I'd like to invite questions or comments from you. Thank you very much. So how can I invite your questions through the chatting or just?
Yeah, maybe we can type the questions in chat. Maybe Greg has a question. Greg, go ahead.
Is that okay?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, Dr. Sakai, thank you so much. That was so informative. My question is, a lot of effort is made in designing the course of study, revising the textbooks. How is this communicated to the teachers? Is there mandatory training for the teachers? Is the training voluntary? It must take a long time for this knowledge to disseminate to all the teachers. So if you could talk to that, please.
I thank you very much for your questions. Actually, next, I expect every prefecture to do some education policies to improve teachers' English abilities, and also the length of the use of their use of English during their lesson times. And so most of the prefectures have organized some workshops for the teachers, and also teachers I expect to improve the teaching abilities by opening their lessons with some very outside people, outside scholars or university teachers or other instructors to improve their lessons. Did I answer to you?
Yes, you did. Thank you. Thank you very much.
If I may.
Could I ask a question, if I may?
I was going. Yeah, go ahead. You first, and then me.
Sorry. Would you like to go ahead?
Please go ahead, Max.
Okay. This is Max Maria. Thank you very much for allowing me to question. Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Sakai. That was very informative for me too. And I've been teaching, or rather assisting teaching English at elementary school for the past couple of years, together with homeroom teachers. So the example shown is Iwakiri Sensei, whom I really admire and respect for the demonstration. But that case is, I guess Iwakiri Sensei is probably English dedicated Japanese teacher of English, together with ALT, team teaching he was doing. But in my case, I'm teaching with my homeroom teacher. I'm like ALT. So would you have any advice or tips for the homeroom teachers to make communicative activities, like together with me, like ALT? The example shown was very theoretical and probably practical, but it seemed like a little bit too difficult to practice for homeroom teachers. So if there would be any essence or any good clue to give advice to homeroom teachers, if you had, it would be very much appreciated.
Thank you very much for your question. And I think the teacher's abilities or teacher's role is really important, and that's a very issue for elementary school English language teaching. And I attended some schools, observed some schools in which the teachers have improved their lesson improve the teaching abilities. One, I think one working way is that the homeroom teachers prepare for small talk by themselves and keep writing the English for every lesson. So, for example, the lesson by Iwakiri Sensei, the topic was winter vacation. So homeroom teachers also think about their own winter vacations and prepare for small talk in advance, and then perform with the LT, and the LT can ask questions and so make the teacher talk more interactive by asking or by making comments. And through this activity, the homeroom teacher learned how to ask questions or make comments. And then the teacher started to do such strategies toward LT's small talk. So I think if the teachers can start to think about small talk better, maybe it will make a very little change, but they will be helpful for the improvement of their own English and also how to do the English lesson.
Okay, thank you very much for your input.
I think Mary has a question. Mary Aruga, do you want to ask your question, Mary?
Okay, thank you very much for your talk. And I'm wondering about input. How can sufficient input be provided at these levels? And is it up to the teacher to provide the input?
Could you paraphrase your question for me?
Sorry. I'm just wondering how the teachers will provide sufficient input so on which students can base their comprehension and output.
I think that the teacher, the first main input comes from the teachers, including homeroom teachers and their assistant language teachers. But our homeroom teachers, most of the homeroom teachers have limited English ability, so maybe they only use the previously learned words and phrases for students. So it is difficult to incorporate new phrases and words and phrases. So probably the LTs can bring such expressions to the classroom. And another way is that the listening materials provided through the textbooks. And textbooks have basically very simple listening activities, and the listening activities using a variety of English. So I think the idea that the students, elementary school students, have the tolerance for ambiguity in listening. So it is widely known. So students are only taught to understand the main points of only parts of the listening passages. Such listening activities can have a variety of English, so students can get more variety of input, I think.
I see. Thank you very much.
Okay, Mallory, would you like to ask your question? Mallory, are you there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay. Thank you for this speech. And my question was, in the do, teach, do procedure, is there like a time average recommended so the teach part doesn't take too much time, or? the teachers like don't spend the main time of the lesson on that part?
That's a very practical question, but a difficult question to answer. It depends on the students' readiness or the types of activities. But I believe that the most of the time should be allocated to communication activities. So the time for learning should be shorter. I'm not sure, but more than 50% of the lesson should be for communicative activities, I think.
15%, okay. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to go to Michelle first, then Namiko, then Jason. Michelle in Kyushu, would you like to ask your question?
Yes, hello, and thank you for your talk. I have this question, like I'm under this impression that these changes are already happening. Does this mean that there are also changes in the way the exams will be made? Like, for example, the end term exam or the actual national exams? Thank you.
Thank you very much. The entrance examinations also has been changed or revised, reformed. And so more and more universities provide interview tests and only, for example, for entrance examination to senior high schools, some prefectures are considering the use of interview tests. And one, Tokyo has started assign speaking tests for the entrance examination to senior high schools. So basically more and more communicative testing methods, the examination of English has been changed to measure students' real communicative competence, not only grammatical aspects. Thank you.
Okay, and then Namiko, Tsuruta-san.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. My question is about textbooks in general. I know as a fact that MEX has said that high school textbooks really weren't required, but teachers were complaining that they wouldn't know what to do without the crutch of a textbook. My question is about the usage of textbooks in 3rd and 4th grade, where developmentally, I feel as a practitioner that textbooks just aren't necessary at that level. And then at the 5th and 6th grade textbooks, I'm looking at those. Basically, they just look content-wise, they just look like junior high school books trickling down to the 5th and 6th grade levels to make it easier for then junior high school teachers to teach the same content. What are your thoughts about the textbooks? What are your thoughts about maybe revising some of these textbooks to align with the course of study that you had just mentioned?
Thank you very much for your question about the textbook. For grades 3 and 4, let's try 1 and 2 are being used. And I think the books Let's Try are helpful for students to understand the situations or the activities. So we can use the textbooks for the setting of some activities or the introduction of the topics, and and also the textbooks have some songs or listening materials. So you can use such materials as well as the teacher taught. And for grades 5 and 6, I think one of the problems is that activities appearing in the textbooks are not very far from students' reality. So it is teachers to make who make some connections between the activities in the textbooks and the students' interests or students' life. So by using the activities appearing in the textbook, and after that, maybe teachers should expand the contents or the English phrases to students' life. For example, when if the listening activities listen to some boys and girls talking about winter vacations, and then after listening to such boys and girls talk, and teachers can ask questions, how about you, to their own students, then students' focus is shifted from the listening activities, which are very different from their own life, to their own real life. By doing so, I think we should make some effort to connect the activities with the students' interests. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next, Jason Pacman, you have a question?
Yes, hi. Yeah, I teach at a private school, and so I just wanted to know, I've been teaching for a long time, but I don't know this is, and it's a more general question, but what's the relationship between the course of study generally and private schools? Because, I mean, you just said that prefectures are supposed to teach or train the teachers, but of course, private schools, I'm not sure they have this similar training, or, so if you could just like talk about the relationship between, private schools and the course of study. So thank you for the informative presentation too. So.
Thank you very much. Well, about as to the private schools, actually, they need to follow the courses of studies, but at the same time, they are given some freedom to make a curricula for their own. But as I told, the examination systems have changed for more communicative orientation. So many private schools have tried to change their way of teaching for communicative orientation. Thank you very much.
I had maybe a brief question as well. So in the small talk YouTube example that you showed, the Japanese instructor was very highly skilled. So I'm wondering, are most elementary school English subject teachers or English activity teachers, are they English specialists or are they primary school generalists?
That's a very good question and a very interesting question. English specialists and teachers in generalists have both of them have demerits and advantages or weaknesses. For example, English specialists have to teach very many students at the same time. So it may be difficult for English specialists to understand individual students and adjust their way of teaching to students' needs. And instead, on the other hand, homeroom teachers may understand their own students more, so they can create a very interesting lessons to their own students. However, English specialists have more knowledge and skills about teaching, so I think that's very advantage. So both of them should learn from each other and to make better English language teaching. And also the employment of English specialists depend on the local governments. So the situations are quite vary according to the areas. Until last year, Next hired some English specialists for the new curricula, but that financial supports stopped quick last year. So now it depends on the financial support from the local authorities. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. It's 11:30, everybody, and so it's the end of the talk. I would invite everyone to turn on their microphone.